Good morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome to Morning Intentions. Today is Monday, November 10th. We hope you had a lovely, restful, productive, whatever you hoped it would be weekend. I had a great weekend. Annette, I'm pretty sure you had a great weekend.
I did.
So we're just going to dive right in. All weekend, I have been thinking about what I called not a good why or not a good enough why, and what you reinterpreted as an inauthentic why.
Yes. Not good enough always bothers me.
Yes, even over the weekend, I would text you or something and say, "Oh, I have another not good enough why," and you would say, "I don't like that. It's inauthentic."
It's an inauthentic why.
And I would say, "Well, it felt authentic at the time. I wouldn't have known it was inauthentic until I grew and I learned more and I reflected and I looked back and said, oh, wow, that was inauthentic."
We're trying to get to this place where we have meaning, purpose, and authenticity.
Can you say those one more time? Because I want us that to be in our skulls.
Yes. Meaning, purpose, and authenticity. We can do the same action from two different places. From an authentic place where we understand our inherent worth and we have that solid foundation of self-love and self-care. We can do the same thing from another place where we're hustling for our worth. And sometimes we don't know the difference. So meaning, purpose, and authenticity.
Well, reflecting on inauthentic whys got me thinking even more. It got me thinking about, what do we do now? Because if we've come from an inauthentic why, we can't just try to add a better why on top of it and hope it works out.
So do you have an example for us?
Well, I have a metaphor,
Okay.
and then I'll think of an example too.
Okay.
So the metaphor is, if you have a doghouse or part of your own home, hopefully not true for your own home, but maybe outside you have some wood, you have a doghouse, and maybe there's water damage and it's rotting away. Now, you wouldn't just want to try to paint over that rotten spot and say, well, I got it all cleaned up, good enough. You want to actually remove the rotten part, repair the damage, and then replace with something new, something that actually is functional and isn't on the verge of falling apart. And that's what we can do with our belief systems, where when we've grown and we've learned something new, we try to just attach what we've learned on top of the old.
That's a really great analogy because that's what a lot of us try to do. I know I have been guilty of doing that time and time again. I would learn something new in the personal development realm and I would try to tack it on to what I was doing that really wasn't working for me.
Right. And so if we have an inauthentic why, we don't want to add a better why on top of that and then say, good enough, that'll work out. We actually need to do the work to let go of the old inauthentic why, so the new why that is authentic, that has meaning and purpose, can take root.
Well, that's this perfect segue for what we wanted to cover this week. This week, we want to go from external validation and really understanding, are we seeking external validation? We want to go from external validation to inner alignment. That's the theme of this week. So I love your analogy because there's no way that we can get to that place of inner alignment when we're putting new paint over something that's rotting.
That's right. And I've felt that incongruence when I've tried to combine the old and the new, because then part of me still wants to do the old thing, and that feels true for me in the moment. But then there's another part of me that says, well, no, I know that old way isn't the best way, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And so, but I'll just add on top. And then I feel like I'm being pulled in two different directions, when the honest and the best answer for me to help me be the best version of myself is to fully let go of the inauthentic why.
So the first example that we wanted to share this week is the question, are you living someone else's why?
Ugh, can you say that again?
Are you living someone else's why? Now, we all fall into this. I don't care who you are. We do fall into this in some regard because we inherit the whys of our families, of our culture, and our workplaces. So the month of hustle culture taught us that we, as people who live in, mainly our audience is the United States, but there are people from other countries that listen to this, but they're all developed countries. All of us listening here, we understand we can be living someone else's why based on our culture. The culture is we must do this, we must do that, fast, fast, fast. Bigger is better. When we take a step back and we say, is this actually my why? Or is it my family's why? Is it my culture's why? Is it my workplace's why? It does take intention. We have to create a space where we check in and we say, what's the motivating factor here? Why am I doing this? What is my why here? Am I doing this because this is the way my family's always done it and I guess I have to do it? Or am I doing this because this is how I want to contribute to my family? In my workplace, am I doing XYZ because this is what is supposedly expected if you work here? And some of that we've got to do. I know that in order to keep our jobs. And yet we also have to check in of how much we do that. And if we're being inauthentic all day long, trying to meet the expectations and the why of our employer, we may not be working at the right place. And I know that in our society now, many people are losing their jobs. Maybe people will say, well, this isn't even practical. I understand that. There might be a time where you have to work at a place where you do have the inauthentic why. But we're talking about thinking about our entire lives and working toward having a career where we contribute from this place of the inside out as opposed to the outside in.
And if you're working at a place where you look at it and you're doing things or the company's doing things because that's just the way we've always done it. That's an inauthentic why, by the way. And maybe you're not in a position of power where you can make changes. Or when you've suggested changes that would be better for everyone, it was met with resistance or put downs or it was ignored. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you're in a position where you figure out the why, it's inauthentic, use that because that can help you figure out how does it feel to have an inauthentic why in other areas of your life. Check in when you're at work. How does it feel in your gut, in your shoulders, somewhere in your body? Because then you can start to recognize, oh, I feel this feeling when I'm with someone else, or I feel this feeling when I'm with the people who I don't align with for whatever reason. And then you can start to use the situations that don't work for you to find out what situations do.
Well, you bring up a really great point here because when we've been on this track where we're just doing what we think we're supposed to be doing or what we think we have to be doing, and sometimes there are have-tos, I understand that. And at the same time, if we've been going into work for the last decade and we've got that inner ugh and our stomach kind of gets funny every time we think, oh, tomorrow's work. Well, we know then that we're not starting with why. But there is this experience where that's just the way we've done life for so long.
And a lot of times we've learned to ignore our inner ugh.
Yeah, we don't think that we've got another choice. So it's bringing awareness. And it doesn't mean that you're going to quit your job this afternoon. But what it does mean is you start thinking, is this the best type of work for me? Is this the best place for me to work? If you're finding that you have an inauthentic why for being there, then you can start slowly doing the work to move to a different position, a different company. When we're living someone else's why, the years go by, and then one day we say, I've been doing all of this, but it didn't even come from inside of me. I wasn't living from the inside out. I was living from the outside in, and all the different ways, whether it's your relationships, the pressure there, your culture, the pressure there, or your workplace, the pressure there. It took you from you. And we can show up as the best version of ourselves when we are living from the inside out, as opposed to all that outside pressure forcing us to live from the outside in.
So, our intention for today is a reflection question. Am I living someone else's why? Am I living someone else's why? Thank you so much for joining us today. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you tomorrow.
See you then.